York Jets first-round selection, fullback, Roger Vick, Texas A&M.
Well, it's Monday. We don't normally record on Mondays. We normally do this thing on Tuesdays. But, Pookie, we have 450 million reasons to do an emergency podcast today. It's the first of its kind. Why are we here?
Well, Pat Mahomes, baby, he has officially broken reality. 450 million smackaroonies. That is a lot of money. And we have a lot to talk about. I mean, where do you even start with something like that? I mean, it just dwarfs everything that's been done before him.
Well, I mean, it's like there are so many things to talk about, like what does this do for the Chiefs going forward? What does this mean for Dak Prescott and Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson going forward? Let me tell you straight off the bat, they don't deserve that kind of money. Like, this is the contract to end all contracts, and we knew it was coming. We knew it was going to happen eventually, and I think it happened this year because the NFL, there was going to be a decrease in the salary cap next year, and really because I think the virus was going to impact some of it. There's going to be a big TV deal coming up soon, I think, when CBA negotiations continue. And I think they were going to wait for the CBA, but with the pandemic coming in, they thought maybe we should go ahead and get this contract out of the way. And I knew it was going to be big. I knew he was going to be put up. He was going to be north of $40 million plus a year. Pookie, $45 million a year. $45 million a year. That's $10 million more than the next guy, Russell Wilson. I mean,
it just defies all logic because, I mean, yeah, Pat Mahomes is worth every penny, and I bet that even though their roster will probably be completely depleted of talent whenever he gets done with that contract, just because it's going to be so hard to sign good players, unless they can draft well, of course. And Pat Mahomes, he can probably do it with whoever he has, and that's why they pay him $45 million a year. Let that number sink into your head. $45 million every year.
I'm curious to see what the structure of that contract is. Is it front-loaded? Is it back-loaded? I would have to think it's back-loaded because of some of the guys you got on the roster right now. I'm looking at their current salary cap situation. Frank Clark, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Tyrann Mathieu, and Chris Jones are the top 5 players in terms of percentage of the cap. My thing is, you've got Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz, who I would imagine will be coming up for extension soon. You've got to sign them. He's the best player in football right now.
Might be
you
the
want
best.
to have him for the remainder of his career. 10 years, that's a long time.
Could you say that Pat Mahomes is the best football player on planet Earth?
He is. If for any other reason, he's playing the most important position in football, and he's by far and away the best at it. So he's certainly worth the most. I don't even know where to start in terms of what the Chiefs are going to do, how they're going to structure around this deal. I mean, this just kills every other deal ever made, and it's not even close. Again, like we said, we knew it was going to blow out every other deal ever made, but not by 300 million. I think Matt Ryan signed a 5-year extension for $150 million. I think that's right, in 2018.
It's not even close. It's not even comparable.
Yeah. Well, they're certainly a Super Bowl team this year and next year.
We could be looking at a Chiefs dynasty.
Well, you see, I don't know, because more than anything, it really depends on the salary cap. What is the salary cap going to be in 3 to 4 years' time? This kind of plays into my argument that I've been. Now, listen, I don't know the logistics. I would have to work that out, or someone a lot smarter than me would have to work that out, which there are plenty of those people. I'd love to see the NFL do it where the quarterback's salary does not count against the cap. We see a lot of good quarterbacks go to bad teams because they want to be paid more, and those teams are willing to shell out more money. But you want to see these good quarterbacks be rewarded for playing really well and to be on these good teams. And I just don't see how that's going to be possible unless the Chiefs adopt this strategy of we're going all in on the draft. We're getting players who are going to be solid for us in 4 to 5 years' time, and then we cut them like the Patriots do in many scenarios.
I mean, the way that they draft is going to have to completely be shifted just because they're going to have to maximize the amount of talent they can put in through the draft. They're not going to be able to do a lot of free agency signings. It's just going to be – there's too much money tied up with his contract for them to really make an impact in free agency, which if you look at a lot of the good teams, they often try to build through the draft and they just sprinkle in savvy veterans to supplement their draft picks. And, for future quarterbacks that are going to be drafted, by the way, what does this mean for them? What does this mean for a Deshaun Watson, for a Dak Prescott, for a Lamar Jackson? Because the way quarterback markets work is it usually goes off of the last year's biggest contract. And, if Pat Mahomes has a $450 million deal, that's a buzzword right there. We're going to say that a lot in this show. How do you compare the markets to coming up for these other players? Because more often than not, they're just trying to outdo the highest paid player from the last season. But how can you outdo this? They're going to have to tell them, look, Dak, you're not worth $450 million.
Patrick Mahomes is the best thing that happened to a lot of GMs around the league, in that you're right, Pookie. It's been a next man up league forever, and it's not anymore. And I think a lot of GMs knew that Patrick Mahomes' contract would be insanely high, and now I can justify not making my guy the next highest player because for two reasons. One, that's so much money, but two, you're not worth it. You're not Patrick Mahomes. Like, you're just not. There are quarterbacks who, like Kirk Cousins, when he got the, $80 million guaranteed? Yeah, I mean, there are quarterbacks around the league who could say, I am better than Kirk Cousins. I am worth more to my team than Kirk Cousins. Therefore, I deserve this. But as a quarterback, I don't have that leverage now. And I promise you, I swear, Lamar Jackson does not have that leverage. He doesn't. And we're talking about his contract. It's going to be like 2 to 3 years before we're even talking about an extension for him. So, and Deshaun Watson's contract's been talked about. Hey, that's a whole different discussion, talking about what the Texans want to do. Do you want to pay that much money to a guy when you still got a roster that needs to be looked at thoroughly? A team that I would almost consider starting over. So,
you think that they might have to rebuild soon?
They're not
young.
That roster's not great. And as good as Deshaun Watson is, if I shell out a lot of money for him, where does that leave me? Here's what I would say. Russell Wilson, to me, has always been the most valuable player in the league to his team. And he's $35 million a year right now. And I don't think any of the quarterbacks that are coming up for extension that we're talking about, Prescott, Watson, and them, they're not worth that to me. They're not worth what Russell Wilson – Deshaun Watson is worth about as much as Russell Wilson is to his team, but Russell Wilson's proven. And
Wilson's won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I don't think Watson and Prescott – and they should have won too. I don't think Prescott and Watson just – they don't have that leverage. But this does point a lot of focus towards them now. I think it's more about Watson than it is Prescott, because the Cowboys can win. In my opinion, they can win without Prescott. Does he make them better than the average quarterback? Yes, but it's not great. Deshaun Watson means so much more to his team, therefore he'd be worth more money. But I'd be curious to be in the meeting room with the Texans front office and Deshaun Watson when they're hammering out these deals, whether it be this year or next year.
And that's a good point to make, that Deshaun Watson is, I think, probably more valuable than a Dak Prescott. And for them being in that meeting room, it's going to be a tough decision because he offers a lot to the team, and I'll give him that. But the Texans roster needs a lot more work than it can afford with paying Deshaun Watson. And he's an interesting case because he's one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the league. He doesn't get probably as much hype as some would give him, or as that he deserves. He gets a lot of attention, but not what I think people should appreciate him for.
My thing with Watson, though, is, and this has to do as much with the Texans as it does him, it's more of a matter of I think he's this rather than I know he's this. Like, I think he can be fantastic, but I don't know. Mahomes, I know what I got. I got one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the game. But with Watson, I just don't know. So, and it's not his fault. It's not his fault because, to me, I think the Texans are hamstrung as long as Bill O'Brien's there. And I'm not even sure how this became an episode about the Texans when we got that $450 million man, but I think it's worth considering because the conversation will shift to Deshaun Watson. I'm not saying he's going to make nearly as much as what Mahomes is going to make, but it does bring up an interesting debate for two guys that were drafted the same draft class. So, and to see their trajectory.
Wasn't it Pat Mahomes went 10th, Watson went 12th?
Yeah. I believe so. They're not Mitchell Trubisky, but they're doing okay for themselves.
Was Mitchell Trubisky in that draft?
Yes, he was.
How fucking drove do the Chicago Bears feel that they picked Mitch Trubisky before Pat Mahomes? They have got to be like just tearing their lungs out like more than a freaking COVID patient.
Oh my God. Dude, I swear what it has to do is I really think it has to do with Trubisky only played – I think he only had a few good games his junior year at North Carolina. It was before his last year at North Carolina, whether it be his sophomore or junior year. His senior year, he was pretty good, but he didn't have a lot of film out there. And for that reason, we were like freaking out. We were like, oh my gosh, like, or the scouts were, because there's not a lot of film. And when you don't have a lot of film out there, we don't have as much to nitpick. Deshaun Watson had 3 years or 4. I don't remember, but he had at least 3 years to nitpick and find little things here and there. And it's like the more film you have out there, the more things they can nitpick. And we're excited about the guy who doesn't have as much film. It's like we're also very excited about the freshman quarterback in college, like Sam Darnold. He was never as valuable as he was right after the Rose Bowl when they beat Penn State. We were like, oh, my God, Sam Darnold would be the highest rated quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck if he came out right now. But after his junior year, we had more film to nitpick, and he wasn't there. So I think the Bears got caught in that trap with Trubisky and Watson and Mahomes, but it's no excuse. You get paid that much money. That's your job, is to scout. So either it's you or it's your system. And either way, someone's at fault. And the Bears, that will be remembered as one of the most iconic draft classes in recent memory just because of the mistakes that were made. You passed up on, this guy. It's not the Brady 6, but, it's like the Mahomes 9 and the Watson 11. It's like, I don't know, but okay, Pookie, so here's what you're looking at with the Chiefs. You re-signed Sammy Watkins. He took a pay cut because he's smart. He knows what they can do going forward. I'm not familiar with Tyreek Hill's contract situation. I know he's tying up a little bit of the cap. You got McCall Hardman, who's, he's still early into his contract. I'm thinking about their weapons. Now, Kelce signed an extension. I think it was 5 years, $46 million. And then you have, Schwartz and Fisher looking at that offense. I'm thinking about who can I sacrifice. I think the Chiefs got a great draft pick with Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
That'll take pressure off of Pat Mahomes.
And it's a great weapon who fits their offense brilliantly, and you get them cheap for 4 to 5 years. And I'm just thinking, like, what can Mahomes do with the weapons? How do the Chiefs structure this offense? If you were the Chiefs on offense, who is the second guy I can't afford to lose?
That's a tough one, but I would have to say Travis Kelce. Because Tyreek Hill, he's a speed demon, but the Chiefs have shown a propensity to draft good wide receivers. And they also have Sammy Watkins, who I think has had a really good bounce back in his career. And McCall Hardman, I think, is going to be a star whenever he finally develops. But Travis Kelce, he was the original weapon on this offense. So he's been there the longest. He has the most veteran presence, and he really kind of started that Chiefs offensive dominance for them. It all started with Travis Kelce. It didn't start with Tyreek Hill.
Let me ask you this, though, Pookie. Who do you think, which position on offense behind quarterback is the most important, the most significant?
Probably offensive tackle.
See, that's my thing. I
just don't think Eric Fisher, he's a really good tackle, and some people called him a bust, but then he kind of turned it around when he moved to right tackle.
I think he's at left tackle because I think Mitchell Schwartz is right tackle. I thought Mitchell Schwartz was left tackle, but from what I see, I think Schwartz is right tackle. Let me see if I can find their most recent. Yeah, they have Schwartz listed at right tackle, and arguably he's the best right tackle in the game. So I don't.
It's a really important position, but logic would say that wide receiver should be the next important in today's game. But you can't throw to the receiver if you don't have a good enough tackle to keep Von Miller off of your ass.
That's what I'm saying, dude. I just don't want to. I mean, I'm not saying he's not. I'm not comparing him to Andrew Luck, Mahomes, but I just don't want to see another Andrew Luck situation where you have this generational talent whose career takes a slide because the incompetence of the front office to give him a line. Like if Andrew Luck had the line that they have right now, I think Andrew Luck's playing for 15 years. But they didn't, and the man took a beating. And, I mean, Mahomes has more weapons around him. But just I don't want to see his career go down the drain because they haven't built in other areas. I don't know. I hope they can protect him, whatever they have to do. I'd like to see players take pay cuts, honestly. Well, okay, two parts to this. I would like to see a scenario in which these players realize, hey, I'm making good money, but I would rather make a little less than what I could to be on a winning franchise. Kind of like, the Patriots have done in some regards. But at the same time, these guys take a physical beating, as we saw. Like, even in college, you and I, our teammates, they're in the training room all the time. They're taking a beating, and it will last them forever. I don't want to tell a guy not to go make as much money as he can when he's doing something as dangerous and could potentially affect his long-term health as football. So I'd like for them to get the most money possible, but at the same time, I wish – because I'd give anything to win, honestly. Like, to win a Super Bowl, I'd rather do that than make, this much money every year. I don't know. It's just –
That's a big question in today's league. What would you rather do, make the money or win? And it's always kind of been a question, but I think it applies to today's game more than anything because a lot of the times you're sacrificing one for the other.
Well, it does because this is the salary cap era, baby. Didn't have that back then. That's why your Steelers could win 5 Super Bowls and then 6 in the – I guess they won 2 in the salary cap era, 3 before that, but or 4 before that. My bad, 4.
4 in the 70s and 2 in the 2000s.
Yeah. It made a huge difference. And again, I'm not trying to toot my team's horn, but that's what makes the Patriots 6 a little more special is how they worked out those contracts and were able to take on guys who didn't have, big money.
And, like with that sort of contract, people have to remember that the NFL is a business. And when you're giving up your body for a business in that regard, it only makes logical sense that you should be trying to maximize your earnings because, for one, NFL players retire a lot earlier in their careers than most other jobs would dictate. Mm-hmm. So, and they take a lot more of a beating. So they're going to be living with those injuries that they had when they were playing for the rest of their life. And if they don't take the amount of money, like a lot of the times it's hard for them to find other things to do after they get done playing. I mean, some get into business, some get into real estate, some get into TV personalities. They have a lot of options when they get out of the league, but it's not going to be their primary career, so they have to maximize their earnings while they're playing.
Yeah. All right, Pookie, we were talking about Patrick Mahomes, but I got to switch gears. This is something I've been wanting to do for the last few days. We ran a poll the other day talking about, is your teammate's sister off limits? And clearly we live in a sick society because 75% of the voters said, no, your teammate's sister is not off limits. Now, I don't have a sister, so my input here is not as valuable. It more comes from a teammate trying to keep team chemistry going. It just doesn't work. But you have a sister, so go.
I mean, given that this poll question and the people that answered yes to it were probably referencing my sister, they are a bunch of sick fuckers, okay? I mean, why does everyone want to bang my sister? But then again, who wouldn't? But I'm just perplexed that everyone would be so, down and dirty trying to, get in with my sister. I don't know, because we had one of the comments on there was, well, if it's Pookie's sister, then yes. And we're like, first of all, she has a name. I'm not going to say it, but she does have a name. And we can't allow this sort of barbaric ferocity go on on our Twitter.
You're just killing team chemistry, man. How am I going to perform in the clutch scenarios when I'm worried about that man on my sideline dating my sister, going out after the game and celebrating? How can I think about the task at hand when that I've got that going on? You're just killing the vibe. I don't even care if they're soulmates. It's unacceptable, Pookie. And I actually was trying to set your sister up with one of our teammates, your freshman year? No, it was your sophomore year. And you said no. And I'm like, what's going on here? Because this is one of the finest men I could possibly nominate for such a prestigious position to be the man dating your sister. You said no. So that instantly told me, man, it's just not cool. It's not cool. We can't have it. It's unacceptable. So I guess the best thing we can do today is make sure our audience knows it's just not cool, man. It's not cool. I don't think there are many scenarios in which this has played out well. So 75-25 vote, but it's like the Electoral College beating out the majority here, guys.